Hello and welcome back to the Bald Book Geek. My name is William James. Like, sub, and do the usual. How are all of you? So, Doctor Who. The viewing figures haven't been bad, and we've had the lowest debut for any Doctor. And before anyone says anything, oh, people don't watch TV this way anymore. It's changed since 2020. We're still recovering from 2020. And all of this stuff, please stop making those excuses because clearly going by numbers on certain movies and TV shows, we are recovering. Like, dude, find another argument. So, Doctor Who kind of started with a bleh moment. And then now, if you don't like it, you're an ist, you're a phobe, you're whatever. And the specials were not that good. The Star Beast was bizarre and all over the place and just felt very forced and very awkward. But the good thing in that was Tennant and Catherine Tate. Those two together are just this amazing pair, and I love the chemistry between them. So actually, if you take the rest of the crap out and just watch it for them, it's fine. Now, then we had Wild Blue Yonder, which was... it exists. Again, the chemistry was good, but the episode was not... It was definitely a step up from the previous one, but it was definitely not great. Chemistry was good, though, and I did like that. And then finally, the Giggler. Now, that was actually quite fun. I enjoyed the villain, but then it just kind of broke canon. I love the Toymaker, and I thought that was really good casting with him. But then there was this bi-generation thing, so now technically Doctors coexist, and I don't know how to describe it with this one. I think they've kept Tennant around so they know if the viewing numbers are going down, they can bring him back to try and win them back. The problem is, and I say this, Russell T Davies, when I first heard he was coming back, I was so relieved. And then he doubled down on the Timeless Child. Then he went into this bizarre tirade on people with disabilities and then started attacking people with disabilities. And it was this whole list of things. I have no clue to describe this. And I think people are switching off. And this is being blunt about it. I think it's not so much... Okay, the episodes are not great. I don't like the new Doctor yet, but I said in my previous video I think he has room to grow, and I don't tend to like new Doctors anyway. But he definitely could grow, but then his interviews with him have been kind of red flaggy, to say the least, on the subject. And now I have a very bad feeling that they're going to replicate the Rose thing. And I don't want them to replicate Rose Tyler. I liked Rose Tyler and the Doctor. I liked that story. I think that was a really good storyline, Bad Wolf. On the other side of it, I think trying to replicate old Doctor Who is a little bit of a mistake. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think, as a whole, sometimes things are better to rest. And I thought Jodie, as an actress, is fine, but as the Doctor, she got given some terrible material. She could have been decent, but the material she was given was terrible. And they didn't allow the Doctor to be the Doctor, and sometimes I felt like I was watching Power Rangers, which is not a compliment. now with the sort of Ruby character and all of this, and it just feels like they're going down with Ruby. They're going down this Rose Tyler route, and I don't know if they're going to do it again. Ruby reads like Rose Tyler. She even looks a little like her, which, Billie Piper vibes all over it. And the leaks haven't been good, and I feel like people are switching off. I feel like people are moving away from it, and I think one of the things that Doctor Who needs is a break. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think Doctor Who needs a break. We had a break between Sylvester McCoy, the movie, which was my first Doctor Who, and then Eccles. So there was a big gap there, and when Doctor Who came back, it felt like a breath of fresh air, and the problem is, it feels now like they're trying to replicate, and the thing is, you can't recapture magic. I thought when they kind of broke... It was always implied the First Doctor was not the First Doctor. It might not have been. But I feel like in public consciousness, they should have just left the First Doctor where he was. Then they brought in the Fugitive Doctor, which was... I don't know how to describe that. That was a weird move, and I don't get why they did it. And it felt more like a political decision. And they've done other incarnations. I love the War Doctor. I mean, John Hurt. Come on. John Hurt. The best thing Moffat did was the War Doctor. Let's be honest. And I loved it. I loved that special. I loved it going back through the Doctor's life and through people. And it was fantastic. But I feel like Doctor Who, especially, and I'm going to retread some old ground here, I feel like with Capaldi happened, and he started off on a very slippery slope. One minute he was dark and serious, next minute they were trying to make him light and bright, and it never felt a balance between the two personas. Sonic sunglasses, anyone? It didn't feel quite right, and then his last season happened, and I liked his last season. I thought that was really good, and I thought Missy was fantastic. Then Jodie happened, and I liked her first few episodes. I thought the first episode was fantastic, and those first few were really good. And then once the production people changed, the tone shifted. The sets felt smaller, the action felt smaller. I'm going to put this one out there, and I saw this comment a lot. I would like to see the Doctor with a non-human companion. I'd like to see the Doctor with... I would like to see the Doctor doing... I don't know. I would just like to see the Doctor, a companion. I'm sick of Earthbound stories. That is a thing that is getting really annoying now. I know it's budgetary, but, film in a quarry in Wales and you can create a nice, with a filter over it, I'm sure you can make it look like another planet, or some green screen stuff. But everything feels very Earthbound, very much Earth-centric, and sometimes it gets a little bit boring. And you can always tell when Doctor Who gets a bit desperate because the old villains come back, which I have never truly understood why we have so many Cybermen stories in recent years, and my big theory is that the Cybermen are a classic villain and I love them, but they have a lot of costumes, so they might as well use them. And I liked that sometimes. I thought that last episode with Capaldi was spectacular with the Cybermen. I thought kind of canonising their origins, which we kind of knew anyway, but canonising their origins and the Master and all of the, the Masters and Missy. I thought they were fantastic. Were they as strong as others? And you could definitely see where the budget cuts were, though. That there was a thing The budget cuts did show, and there were some very interesting effects going on with many Cybermen who looked like robots that were just cardboard cutouts, I'm sure, in the background. Especially when you watch in HD. Yikes. I don't like the fact that Disney have a huge amount of sway in Doctor Who now. I think Disney are an extremely disingenuous company, and it's absurd. The thing that is, I will say, for American audiences, I feel your pain with trying to watch it because we've got it spread across a few streaming services. You've got it spread across multiples. Most Classic Who here is on BritBox, but Classic Who is on a different service over there. It's a whole list of things, and I think they need to kind of centralise it, but not on Disney Plus for the new ones. I think it's a mistake. I think Disney overall, because Disney Plus isn't doing very well, but I think Disney's involvement is a mistake. Overall, though, I don't think the BBC were doing a very good job in recent years. It's a thing. I don't think the BBC were doing a very good job, but you could definitely see the budget issues showing, and you could see other strains showing, and very interesting discussions about Chris Eccles backstage, and sort of his blacklisting and his conditions to coming back. I think say it all, and I think in the big scheme, and going back to an earlier point, that Doctor Who needs a break. It needs a few years away from the television. It needs a rest, and we can go back into new and Classic Who repeated on varying channels, and then we can go into from there. That's the thing that gets me with this show. Like, you have this massive universe. You have all of this stuff that you could possibly do. And yet, we're still getting Earth-based stories, which I'd love them just not to go to Earth. We're still getting a rinse and repeat, and it does look like this series is going to be a rinse and repeat for the Doctor and the Rose Tyler story with Ruby. I think it's just, what's the point? I mean, and this, Doctor Who was one of my favourite TV shows. I grew up, my first Doctor was the movie, and I love that. It's flawed, but I love it. And I will recommend the Big Finish dramas a lot, because you get to explore some characters and other Doctors that didn't really get much time on screen. But also, I would recommend a few other things as well. There's some mini stuff and some fan stuff. But what gets me is that all the repeats that I remember watching of Doctor Who, like, these things were made with polystyrene, some glue, and a Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier approach. And honestly, I think even the early New Who was far stronger. Doctor Who by its nature has always been political. It always will be. Science fiction by its nature is political. But the way it's being handled now is clumsy. And it feels like a step backwards because they're so concerned with the message they forget they have to write a good TV show. And I mean, I wonder what will be next. And I mean that. I wonder what will be next. I will keep watching because there could be hope here. There could be something really good, and I like to give things a fair chance before I watch them. And before I kind of write them off completely. But I like to give things a fair chance, and there could be some good, there could be some bad. And like I said, there were good elements to these specials. There were very bad elements to these specials as well. So I don't know what should happen next, but I think it just needs a break. It needs breathing room. It needs a space to grow and breathe and let the fandom breathe, because it seems to be content over quality, and that's the thing that gets to me. It's content rather than a television show, and making content for a streaming platform is very different to making a television show. So again, I wonder what will be next. I wonder what will happen next. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. My big concern with it is it's just going to descend into chaos, and it's going to descend into nonsensical breaking canon, breaking stories, and they've already broken canon in many ways, but there's a difference between adding to stuff that might have been suggested or left in the background, or or it could be that the show just ends up dying a slow death. I mean, its viewing figures are not great, and that's a whole other thing. That's a thing that will always get to me. I think sometimes it's better to leave things where they are, give it time and then come back, than constantly churn out an endless stream of content. And just, there was something a bit soulless about the recent ones, and I don't know what it is. And again, a lot of it was the writing, but there's something I'm missing in this, and I'm trying to understand it. So yeah, I don't necessarily think it's all doom and gloom. This could work out to be amazing, and we could be wrong, and I want to be proven wrong. So, as always, tell me what you guys think in the comments below, like, sub, and do the usual, and tell me what you think, because I'm curious on this one.